Alright, people, today we're going to analyze a very queer story that Lauren is going to tell. Huge thanks to brother Josh and Amber for getting that whole interview. It's amazing. I never thought we would see this. I can't believe that NBC denied that to us for so long. So anyway, Chris asked, I'm going to show the introduction.
I mean, help me to understand this.
I don't know
What do
why
you don't know?
I even did.
You don't know why you did it. Well, I think I know why you did it. You did it because you wanted to have sex with a 13-year-old girl.
Good guess, Chris. Good guess. And then listen to this.
I don't think that.
I don't
Oh,
think.
what?
I don't think it was it. Like, you don't think you did all that because you wanted to have sex with a 13-year-old girl? Chris said before, to be fair, like, you start by telling her that they are weirdos and don't tell your full name. Then he says, was it a ruse to get her to trust you? And why did you do it? You did it to have sex with a 13-year-old girl. I don't think that was it. What was it then? And then he goes into that weird story that has nothing to do with the question.
Well, why don't you help me out? Why don't you tell me what it was then?
Because I wasted 5 years of my life on the internet talking to girls.
I wasted 5 years of my life on the internet talking to girls. 5 years? 5 fucking years on the internet. And this was 2007. So in 2002, you were on the internet talking with girls. I should have said with little girls. That I would believe. But you say, I wasted 5 years talking. How did you waste 5 years talking to girls? Oh, let's listen.
That gained my trust.
They gained my trust. Like the girl? They gained your trust? Dude, after 1 month of chatting to a little girl and being a very... Let's just say that Kayla's story did not add up. Like, my parents are going to Las Vegas for their honeymoon. My neighbors are out on a cruise. I'm 13 and they left me in the house alone. Let's say there were quite a few holes. And she managed to get your trust pretty quickly. And he's trying again to place himself as the victim. Like, they gained my trust. They exploited me. Lorne is a perpetual victim. Every single time, it's someone else that's responsible. Now he's going to go into a story like the girl, they made me waste 5 years of my life.
And she seemed like somebody I could trust.
She seems like somebody I could trust. What? You can tell that over the internet?
You could trust. So when you say you spent 5 years on the internet, what, getting taken advantage of by women? In what way?
It's in the way, in what way we don't see Lorne, but we know he nod his head and he's like, yeah, I got taken advantage of by woman. There was that woman in Maine. Her name was Betty, and I stole her money, but she abused me. Stupid. Then you go, in every way. In what way did they take advantage of you? In every way. And Chris should have said, like, okay, sexual? Well, no, not sexual, but every way, dude.
Instance.
For instance.
I was in Washington State.
Okay, I was in Washington State. He was working for, I think it was a conditioned air company. No, actually it was, if I remember well, a septic tank business. That's what he was doing.
That's when I started going on the internet.
When you lived in Washington State, you started going on the internet. What happened?
Good question. Get to the point, Lorne.
Said her name was Amanda James.
Lorne, if you're going to talk about girls, okay, don't call them girls. Call them women. I met a woman. They're not girls. You're too old to use that terminology. You met a woman. Her name was Amanda James. And someone says that name sounds so fake. And it does. Her name probably wasn't Amanda James. It was probably Amanda something else. Even Amanda, it sounds kind of young to me. Lorne is 37, so it sounds a bit out of place. It's just weird, you know, Amanda James. James is a common last name, I have to say. So it's plausible that a girl could be named Amanda Main in Pennsylvania. The way he said it, it seems like a name that he made up. When he says, he should have said, I met a woman named Amanda. No, he took the time to put a last name, you know, like If somebody asks you about a girl, like, tell me about this girl you met, you're going to say her first name. You're not going to say her full name. But Lorne takes the time to take the last name because a bit earlier in the conversation, Chris asked for his name and he said Lorne. And he says, Lorne, what's your last name? Armstrong. So now he's skipping ahead here. Instead of saying Amanda and risking the, maybe Chris is going to ask what was Amanda's last name, he says Amanda James. It's a fake name. It's pretty obvious to me.
She told me that.
She told me that.
Her daughter was her niece.
She told you that her daughter was her niece. What's with you and fucking nieces anyway? Why are you so obsessed with nieces? I think I get it a little bit. Having a niece, it's kind of like having a daughter, except you don't need to take care of her, You can molest her all you want, and when you're tired of her, you can just call her dad and, okay, take her away. Maybe that's why. You sick fuck. Everywhere you go, there seems to be a niece around, What the fuck? I mean, I don't know about the US, but is that really a thing that the uncle is super close to his nieces and they have their own room in his apartment and, you ask your uncle, Uncle Lorne, can I buy a tight pair of shorts? Your uncle? Really? But I've studied Paul Armstrong, and I've studied Lorne. I kind of understand the dynamic here. Paul is Paul. He's Paul. Let's just say it how it is. So the two girls, they had a dad that was Paul. But what I mean by that, listen to Betty's interview. I was going to call him a piece of shit, but that's usually a term I reserve for Lorne. Paul is the kind of guy that if he lost half of his brain in an accident, you wouldn't notice it. He's fucking dumb. He's a piece of shit, okay? I'm going to say that. He's a scammer. Listen to the interview with Durango Mango. Paul Armstrong is a scammer. You just look at his pic. I didn't say that, but he looks like a typical redneck loser. So the way it worked is that the nieces, they had their dad, which was a redneck loser, and not the most appealing man ever. Like, it's no coincidence that, okay, I'm going to stop here. I shouldn't say that. I really shouldn't say that. I can't say it. And then there was Lorne, which was charming and nice, and he told them they were pretty, and they were beautiful, and he liked her, and they were good girls. I bet the boys at your school are all after you. So the way the relationship worked is that the girls really were pretty much closer to Lorne than their real dad. Of course, Lorne was never their dad, but he was just the nice uncle that bought them cell phones, and Lorne said that. Like, I bought them cell phones with the money I stole from Durango Mango. No, that was before that, so actually it wasn't. He probably bought them cell phone using Betty's money. Huh. That's a realization I just made. But anyway, Lorne was the cool uncle. So maybe that's why, he's so obsessed with his nieces. And he tells Kayla, I wish you were my nieces. I would spoil you rotten. And where was I going with that diatribe about... Oh yeah, he's talking about that girl. She's like, her daughter, she told me it was her niece. And I have a weakness for nieces. When you talk about nieces, I get excited because of my past history.
I was watching her niece. Well, she actually had custody of her niece.
Okay. That happens.
And then?
No, Chris asks, and then he doesn't want to give too much time to Lorne to make up a story. His story makes so little sense. Lorne's probably thinking like, oh shit, where was I going? Oh yeah, I need to tell this guy how I was exploited by a woman. Oh yeah, so there was that woman, and there was a daughter that was a niece, and oh yeah, she exploited me. But how?
3 years later,
So what? 3 years later, she were in Washington, she was in Pennsylvania, and for 3 years, you just had a long-term relationship. I don't know, is Washington close to Pennsylvania? I have a feeling it's not. I have a feeling it's Pennsylvania. Isn't that East Coast? Isn't that like close to Vermont or something like that? So for 3 years you had a relationship. Anna, you're a fucking liar. It's bullshit, okay? It's fucking bullshit. There's not a man in this world. I mean, there's not a man in this world that would have a girlfriend for 3 years just talk. It makes no sense, okay? I'm gonna tell you how it is. She was probably just a woman that you met on the internet and you chat with her from time to time. There's no way you said like she was my girlfriend. I realized that in the Holy Lornography you talk about Molly and you say like Kayla asked, was she your girlfriend? She was for about 3 months. We never met. What the fuck? You're a weirdo, Lord. She's my girlfriend, but we never met. And you talk about Molly, and it's pretty weird. The way you see women is really weird. But now you say for 3 years there was Amanda James. And what? And what, Lord? You were girlfriend for 3 years.
Moved back to Maine just to be close to her because she lived in Pennsylvania.
Bullshit. You didn't move back to Maine to be closer to her. It just happened. It was a coincidence. You moved back to Maine like you do from time to time because you thought your latest scam was forgiven and forgotten. You know, you ran away for a little bit while the heat went down. And then you went down to Maine. It just happened that you were closer to that girl, but that's what it was. You know, it's not because you moved back to Maine because of her. It just happened. You moved back to Maine and she was closer. You moved back to Maine because, you know, you probably fucked up in Washington. Let's face it. You can't keep a job for more than 2 weeks. I'm surprised you lasted 3 years in Washington. I know in Washington you got sued for unpaid rent, and they took your from your pay. You're fucking stupid. Like, you owed something like $800 in unpaid rent, and they garnish your wages, and you had to pay like $2,000 with wages and court fees. So why didn't you get some kind of deal with the renting company? You know, why didn't you say, okay, guys, I can pay $800, I'll pay $100 a month? But no, they had to go to court and sue you and everything so they could garnish your wages. It's pretty weird. And you go with that story for 3 years. She was my girlfriend. It makes no sense, dude. She's on the other side of the country. I know Washington is like West Coast. It's close to Vancouver. And you go like, for 3 years she was my girlfriend. She was in Pennsylvania. I was in fucking Washington, dude. I got abused with her.
I didn't date anyone. I didn't see anyone.
You didn't date anyone. You didn't see anyone because nobody wanted to date you. Who would date you, you bald, ugly, pedophile piece of shit? Like, I mean it. You're fucking ugly, Lord. I wish I could say it another way, but I think women would rather date a gremlin than you. And you're a pedo. That's usually a pretty big turnoff for a woman, you know. When you're a fucking pedo, well, when you're Lorne, you're a child rapist. Like, the reason you didn't date anyone was that nobody wanted to date you, and the people that wanted to date you, they were too old, dude. I went around parks and I tried to hit on kids, but then I remembered Amanda James, so I didn't date anyone. Again, he's looking like the victim. Like, for 3 years, I waited for her. I waited to be with her. Dude, you're a liar. That's not how it went. You tried to cheat on her. You tried to meet other girl, but you failed. You know, during the Holy Lornography, you talked to Kayla for a month, and after 2 weeks, we know that you chatted with little girls, with other little girls. We know that you chatted with Disney girl and tried to get her, you know. Hope you don't mind. I'm eating a pot pie while we talk. We know for a fact you chatted with many kids, even when you were involved with Kayla and supposedly you loved her. Now you're trying to make us believe that you waited 3 years to meet your princess in Pennsylvania? You're a fucking liar, Lorne. You're so good at distorting the truth. You're so good at playing around stuff. Like, I didn't date anyone for 3 years. That's because you're a fat, bald loser. That's why you didn't date anyone. Nobody wanted to date you. But no, in his head, he didn't want to date anyone because he loved that Amanda James. Fucking delusional fuck.
Because of her.
Because of her.
So what happened?
It's her fault.
I got back to Maine and I was talking to her on the phone, and
now this is where it gets started to get confused. Like, shit, that story isn't leading me anywhere. I get it. It's not easy, man. You just got busted trying to rape a kid. It's pretty hard to to make up a story on the spot. Like in his head, if you could observe his head like a computer and look at the processes, there's probably the real story somewhere, and then there's the way that Lorne presents it. Like, I moved back to Maine, called to her, I called her, and found she was fake. Fucking nonsense story.
I was talking to her, and
I was talking to her on the phone. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to lie.
my sister wanted to say hi.
My sister wanted to say hi with me. That's like a rite, a rite of passage, a ritual. Every time I want to date a girl, my sister has to talk to them. Oh, that's why it didn't work with Kayla. That's why it didn't work with Kayla. Your sister didn't talk to her. If your sister had talked to Kayla, she would have seen that Kayla was a fraud. That's why you got caught. You should have said like, "Hey Kayla, can you talk to my sister real quick?" And then it would be like the sister like, "Hello, I'm Kayla." Lord, she's a fake. It's your sister's fault, Lord.
My sister had been on the internet for a couple of years, and she was able to read people pretty good.
She was able to read people pretty good. Well, she's a con man, so I guess she sells. You know what they mean. You know what a pyramid scam is? Pyramid schemes. She works for multi-level marketing. Well, she used to work there. I think she failed at that. Even failing at LMM is even worse than failing at. No, okay, it's not worse than what Lorne did and failed to do, but she worked for a multi-level marketing, so let's agree that amongst all the people that you don't want around you, MLM people are probably near the top. They're pretty good at reading people,
And what happened?
What happened?
She get on the phone with her.
Give me a second, man. I'm trying to make up my story. She got on the phone with her. And
she, after she got off the phone, she was only on the phone with her for about 2 minutes, and she got off the phone with her and told me that she wasn't real.
So your sister, you've been talking to that girl for 3 years. Supposedly you moved back to Maine to be closer to her. I guess you couldn't move to Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania. You couldn't move to her state. You have to move to Maine. You talked to that girl. You chatted with her online for 3 years. Supposedly you kept yourself chaste, meaning you didn't want to sleep around because you loved her. And your sister, in 2 minutes on the phone with her, she was able to tell that she was a fake. In 2 minutes? Like, what the fuck? Ow! Maybe the sister is really a genius. Maybe Lorne's sister is really like that good at analyzing people, I guess. And she's like, "Oh, it's a fake, Lorne! It's a fake!" And I'm telling you, Lorne, you should have asked your sister to talk to Kayla. Your sister would have said, "Lorne, it's a sting operation! She's not real!" That story makes zero sense. Well, after moving back to Maine, I asked my sister to talk to her. In 2 minutes, she told me that the girl was a fake. We had been talking for 3 years. Bro, this is not what happened. You made that up. I'll tell you what happened, Lorne. And I don't even need to talk to you. I know what happened. You were talking to her in Maine. And you played her games with her. You had your sexual gratification. You made your little shit. And then you were somehow kicked out of Washington, and you decided to go back to your mom in Maine. Just in time to defraud Betty. That we don't talk about, but you went back to Maine just in time to defraud Betty, okay? And when you went back to Maine, you said, "Oh, God, I'm going to be closer to my sweetheart." Except by the time you moved back, she already had someone else. Or, she realized that you're a fucking loser, so fuck it, And so you move back, and the way that you rationalize it is that your sister probably did talk to her on the phone for a little bit, and she probably told you, like, "Lorne, be careful, blah, blah, blah." And then you went to meet Amanda James, And, you know, she told you basically, fuck off, dude. You got pushed away. And you are such a narcissist, Lorne, that you didn't take it. And you go through that whole story about she wasn't real, she was fake. What does it even mean she was fake? What kind of person would talk with you for 3 years and then go like, well, I was fake? You know? Like, what the fuck? You know, that's the long game, you know. You talk to someone for 3 years, and then finally you come to meet them, and you're like, just kidding, I'm fake. Like, what? Lorne, you got rejected. She wanted nothing to do with you, or she probably had someone else. She probably was talking to another guy, and you didn't like that. You know, like, oh God, I didn't date anyone because I loved her, which we know is false. But that's how you saw it in your mind, in your weird Lorne-ish vision of things. That's how you saw it. You know, I didn't date anyone because of that girl. No, Lorne, you didn't date anyone because nobody wanted to date you. You're an ugly, disgusting fuck and a pedo. There you go. My sister talked to her for 2 minutes. It's a fake, Lorne. Holy shit, you're a fucking bad lawyer, Lorne.
She wasn't real.
She wasn't real. What does that even mean? She wasn't real. Like, she was an alien. She was a vampire. She was a man. But even Chris is like, she wasn't real. Okay, who was she then?
She was lying to me, and she'd been lying to me all along.
She's been lying to you all along. How was she lying to you? Like, I'm a man? That's the only way I can say it. She's been lying to me all along. So she was a man? She was much older than she said she was online. But for 3 years, who would talk with a guy for 3 years and lie for 3 years? And then what? You just come and say, oh yeah, I was lying to you. And then the story gets even more bizarre. Chris here makes a mistake because Lorne started the story saying, like, I got taken advantage of. And Chris is like, in what way? In every way. And then he's going to say, okay, how did she take advantage of you?
You ever meet this woman? Did you send her money?
You send her money. Here he really offers Lorne a huge door. With people like Lorne, if you offer them an escape door to look pitiful and look like the victim, they're going to take it. It doesn't matter what the story is. Lorne is going to say, yeah.
Sent her money. I
sent her money, yes. No, you didn't. You're a lying little bitch, Lorne. In Washington, you were so broke that you could not pay your rent. And they had to sue you and garnish your wages. It's in the federal, it's not in federal, but the legal documents. Now you're trying to make us believe that you sent her money? How? Like a check through the mail, a mail order, Western Union? You supposedly sent her money. And this was like in 2003. There's no advanced way to send money. You sent her money for what? Why did she ask you money in the first place? She lives in Pennsylvania, not in fucking Nigeria. And she said, like, why? What did she say to you? Like, oh, Lord, I need money. You never sent her any money, Lorne. You never, ever, ever did. The reason you say that is because Chris offered it to you. So, of course, you're going to say yes. You know, yes, she stole money from me. She exploited me. It's bullshit. I don't believe it for a second. I believe that you probably think, I'm going to say yes, that she scammed me for some money, because there's no way to prove otherwise, you know. She's not going to come and say, no, I didn't send him money. She's not going to testify about that. So you say, yeah, I sent him money. You know full well that nobody can disprove you. And even if they could, it's too long ago. Then he said he sent her NASCAR stuff.
All kinds of Dale Earnhardt things.
You like NASCAR, Lorne? You know, NASCAR is not really a thing here. I'm not even sure what NASCAR is. The only thing I remember from NASCAR is that there's like 200 identical cars that go in circle for like forever. Like, I don't know how many laps. I know in some region of the U.S. it's really big, and that's fine, I guess. I just don't get it. I don't really like racing in general. You see, I sent her Dale Earnhardt stuff. I did Google him before that. He's a racer, apparently a very good one, an excellent one. That part I believe. I believe that you probably sent her like some kind of hat. You know, you bring a cheap bracelet to Kayla, you probably sent her a cheap hat, hoping that she would fall in love with you and suck your dick. You're not even subtle in the way that you accost women, Lord. But then he goes and he acts like it's a big deal. Like, oh, I sent her some Dale Earnhardt. Sorry for butchering your name. You probably sent her like one sticker and one signed poster. Like, oh, you sent her so many stuff. She stole that from me. She said she loved me. But, you know, we talked for 3 years and she was dating someone else. And, you know, for 5 years, you were about 30, 35. She was presumably around the same age. Imagine how funny it would be if Amanda James was 13 years old, too. I went from Amanda James to Kayla Marie. But anyway, you sent her maybe 2 or 3 gifts in 3 years. The girl, the woman, is 30, 35. She's about to hit a plateau for fertility. She needs to have a baby now. She's not going to wait for you for 3 years while you are a pathetic leech in Washington. So yeah, she dated someone else. Good for her, you know. She didn't miss on much, you know.
Earnhardt things.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. things. She was Dale.
The race car driver.
Yeah.
And so because you got taken
And
advantage
now Chris changes the subject and he goes, says, yeah, you got taken advantage by a woman.
by a couple of women on the internet, you thought it was okay to take advantage of a 13-year-old girl on the internet.
Good question, Chris. Good question. And now he changes the subject. He really, I don't know why he doesn't investigate that topic more and start saying, like, what did you send her specifically? What happened? How did she lie to you? How was she fake? You know, she's a woman, she's fake. What does that even mean? The only way that it really makes sense would be if he's a man. But that's not something that happened often in 2003 and so on. So I just don't get, like, she told me she loved me, but she didn't. A bit like Kayla. Kayla lied to me. I got abused by Kayla. That story makes no sense. It's obviously bullshit. I believe she really existed. I believe he really sent her like a couple worthless gifts. I believe that when he moved back to Maine, he tried to get to meet her, and she either refused to meet her because it's been 3 fucking years, or she rejected him because she had someone else. And he's using that to look pitiful in front of Chris, which he assumes is the father. Listen, people, it makes no sense. This whole story is a mess. I mean, I'm happy we got it. This guy is a pathological liar. It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. Holy shit, that story was dumb. Oh, I sent her money. My sister talked to her for 2 minutes. You fucking idiot, Lorne. You can't, you know, one good thing about being poor and sleeping on the floor with cockroaches is that nobody can steal your money because you don't have any. Holy shit, you're dumb, Lord. And then he goes to jail and his mom has to send him money every month. Dude, you're fucked up, Lord. You're fucked up in the head, dude. It's unbelievable. Thanks for watching, people. Have a good night.